So a while back, Daniel Greene posted on Twitter, "Show me your bookshelves," or something to that regard. And I don't have Twitter, so I totally missed that, but I did see his YouTube video, and I wrote a short comment about how my bookshelves were custom built by me and my mother to maximize storage and minimize sun damage. And I said that if someone was interested, I would make a short video displaying them, and I got a reply saying someone was interested in seeing them. So now I'm making a very amateur video showcasing my bookshelves. They are built out of pine, pre-cut pine boards that I've dyed in a color named Moorish teak. They're 2 meters tall and 60 centimeters deep, or wide, perhaps, from the front facing to the back, whatever that is in feet, I don't know. 60 centimeters about 2 feet, and I think 2 meters about 6.5 feet. The two end ones are 25 centimeters, or a bit less than a feet, I think about 10 inches wide, and they have a solid plywood backing. And the four in the middle are 30 centimeters, about a feet wide, and they're divided down the middle so I can put books from either end of them. I'll pull them out and show real quick, and also display some of my collection inside. So I'll start with one of the end ones, and the shelves are fixed. I can't move them, or I could, but then I had to drill new holes, and they are all connected to a shelf above with these rails, so they won't move sideways as I'm pulling them out. And if you couldn't tell already from my accent, I'm not a native speaker of English, I'm actually Swedish, and so we're gonna see a mix of Swedish and English books. And then this first case, there's mostly Swedish, but there's my Swedish Harry Potter books with covers by Alvaro Tapia. I think the third one is one of my favorites, or the fifth one maybe. There's also The Cursed Child, sadly, but I can't get rid of it. I can't get rid of books. There's the Swedish Aragon books. I greatly prefer these covers to the English ones, especially the second one. Apparently I majorly messed up my recordings of these shelves, but anyway, here's a pan of this first shelf, and I was about to show the third Aragon book, also a very nice cover featuring glider, but I have counted the legs. He has 4 of them. Someone did not read that book properly, and the fourth one has a different style to the cover, as a different illustrator. This one is made by a guy named Johan Egerkrans, who makes fantastic art, but I met several times. The next shelf I've got some very good kind, not all of them, but some of them, quite a lot. These books were all split in two for the Swedish translations, which you'll see is becoming a bit of a theme in Swedish fantasy publishing, or at least it was about 20-30 years ago, a theme of splitting books into two. This here is a book by a Swedish author, Erik Granström. It's the 4th book in a series, and this one is signed by the author. And I have the rest of the entire series in paperback, and the 3 first of the paperbacks are also signed. The next shelf I have some random books, and then mainly Astrid Lindgren books, our Swedish national treasure author. And my favorite of her books are The Brothers Lionheart. You'll see I have 1, 2, 3, and 4 editions of The Brothers Lionheart. My second favorite is Ronja the Robber's Daughter. 1, 2, and 3 editions of that one, as well as my mom's edition Somewhere in the House. And I also love Emil in Lönneberga by Astrid Lindgren. I have 2 complete copies of those books, as well as my mom's editions Somewhere in the House. And this here is sometimes considered Sweden's first fantasy book, Mio min Mio, or it's been translated as Mio my Mio, or Mio in the Land of Far Away, or Mio's Kingdom. There's a lot of different English translations. This one is illustrated by Johan Egerkrans, the same guy who did Inheritance cover. And I don't love Mio min Mio as much, but I still got 2 copies of that book. On the next shelf we have August Strindberg, another Swedish author from the late 1800s. I haven't read, I think, any of these, but I inherited them from one of my dad's friends. They're really nice. I don't know if it's real leather, but they're really nice editions anyway. On this shelf we have Daughter of the Empire, Raymond E. Feist and Jenny Wurst books, also split into 2 each of these in Swedish. We got Anna Karenina Dances with Wolves, Mists of Avalon in Swedish, and here's the Swedish Chronicles of Ancient Darkness, or Wolf Brother books. I'm missing the first one in hardback, but I have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. For some reason they changed the layout and the overall size of the book when the 7th was released last year. These covers are all made by Alvaro Tapia, the same guy who made the first Swedish Harry Potter covers. I think those are great covers as well. Here are some Catherine Kerr Devery books. I don't have all of them, and all of them weren't translated into Swedish either. Some Margaret Rice Tracy Hickman, Dragon Wings, Elven Star, and Fire Sea. The 3 first Deathgate cycle books, and the 4 first were available in Swedish, but I only have the 3 first. Some Terry Brooks Shannara books, also not all of them, but they're all very nice hardback editions with dust jackets. A lot of my books are inherited or thrift store finds, or I bought them at book sales, so I have a lot of unfinished series and series that might not match up in editions all the time. There's a Bible, some Joe Abercrombie, and really nice illustrated edition of Alice in Wonderland in Swedish that I actually got as a award or gifts of sorts from my school when I was in 7th grade. I got it for showing I don't remember how they phrased it, but it had something to do with my interest in studying the Swedish language. That were the motivation for giving me that book. And all the bookshelves are supported by 3 pairs of wheels, so 6 wheels on the bottom, so that I can roll them out and back in again. The second bookcase, sadly, since I messed up the recording and had to redo this later, the lighting isn't as good, especially with how my ceiling lamp is placed, but that's the pan of the first side. and you'll be able to see. Oh, I almost messed up the recording again, but you'll be able to see how I'm placing books on both sides in these. The top shelf is a lot of Jack London books, Call of the Wilds and White Wolf and these, or White Fang maybe. These I got at a thrift store at a book sale for about $30, 35 maybe. I don't know if it's all of his books, but there's a lot of them. This here is Swedish author Selma Lagerlöf. Some of her books, not all of them. Also a thrift store find. These are real leather, and they're gilded ends. And I don't pick these out a whole lot because they're old and they're getting dry and withered at the ends. Next shelf down is the Swedish Ranger's Apprentice books. All of them, even the early years books, but I haven't read Ranger's Apprentice past book 11. And here's the Animorph books in Swedish. I'm lacking book 5 and 6, but otherwise I have all the 16 first ones that were translated into Swedish, which 16 sounds like a lot, but there's 52 or 54 books in the entire series, and I only ever read the ones that were available in Swedish. Next we have Del Toro Quest books, Emily Rodas books, entire series with the follow-ups, but I only read the 8 original books. I never read the follow-up series. I do have a complete set of Twilight books that I read once when I was 14 because a girl I was interested in loved Twilight, and nothing ever happened between me and that girl, but I read them because of her shallow reasons, and I actually thought the first one was okay, the rest not so much. Here we have the Swedish Lev Grossman Magician books, the Swedish Hunger Games, the Swedish Eragon again in paperback. The second one has a completely different cover, and the first one was only ever released in paperback with the movie tie-in. And this here is a trilogy of books by a Swedish author, Dick Harrison, where I bought these at a Renaissance fair directly from the author and got them signed. Down here we have Philip Pullman's Historic Materials in Swedish, one of my all-time favorite series. I love these older Swedish paperback covers. If you can see them, as I said, the lighting is gonna be off this late in the evening. Amber spyglass. These ones are just movie books, movie tie-in books. They all have this image on them, but with a different color scheme. If you're watching Murphy Napier on YouTube, another booktuber, except Daniel Greene, who I'm making this video as a reply to, you'll know Murphy loved these books by Fredrik Backman, Björnstad or Beartown, en man som heter Ove, a man named Owe, and min mormor hälsar och säger förlåt. I'm not sure what this one is called in English. Something to the regard of my grandma sends her regards and says she's sorry. That would be the literal translation of the title. I haven't read any of Fredrik Backman's books. I only got them because of Murph's recommendation. I'm planning to read them though. Next shelf down we have the Swedish Game of Thrones editions. It's getting really dark now. Sorry about that. We have the Swedish Artemis Fowls. We have some Catherine Kerr books. Only the 5 first ever books were available in paperback in Sweden. And on the very bottom shelf we have the Clan of the Caber or Valley of Horses, those Gina Owl books, or however you pronounce her name. Because I have better lighting from my ceiling lamp on this side, hopefully you'll be able to actually see what's in this shelf. And if we start from the top, these are my Swedish Wheel of Time books. Don't have all of them, and all of them were never available in Swedish because they stopped translating them when Robert Jordan passed away. So the Sanderson books were never translated to Swedish. And this is another series where they split all the books into two. So, but I think they have quite nice covers. Not gonna show all of them, but I'll show some. And on the end here is the Chronicles of Ancient Darkness Wolf Brother books. And the 6 first ones were available in paperback. These are old paperbacks. I quite like these covers as well, but they're maybe not as eye-catching for a young child as the Alvaro Tapia hardback ones. Then down here we have my Stephen King collection in Swedish: Carrie, Shining, The Stand, Dead Zone, 2 copies of Firestarter, The Mist, Cujo, Running Man. These 2 make up different seasons, with Apt Pupil, Shawshank Redemption, The Body, and whatever the last one was. I got 2 copies of Christine, 2 different copies. This one was actually my aunt's at one point in time. I got the Pet Cemetery, The Talisman, It, The Eye of the Dragon, Misery. Not sure what this one is called in English. It's called Mardrömmar in Swedish, and Nightmares. It is let's see if I can find. Yeah, 4 Past Midnight is the English title of that one. Tight fit on that shelf. Insomnia, Green Mile, Dreamcatcher, 1408, Just After Sunset, Under the Dome, 221163, Doctor Sleep, Finders Keepers, Last Watch, and the 3 first Dark Tower books. And just some random books at the end. Some more random books. Some biographies. Bruce Dickinson from Iron Maiden, Lemmy Kleinminster, Steve Jobs, Metallica, Pink Floyd. I think, yeah, this is Ingrid Bergman and Ozzy Osbourne. Some John Grisham. I haven't read John Grisham, but I found these at a book sale real cheap. Some Tom Clancy, also haven't read him, but I found him cheap. It's a running theme for my bookcase. These were indie pub books that I bought from the offer at a convention once. Haven't read them, but I love the cover. And here's my Eddings shelf. David Eddings was, or David and Lee Eddings, because they wrote all of the books together. They were my first foray into fantasy apart from Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings. And I got them recommended to me by a teacher when I was in 3rd grade, and I have reread some of the books, and maybe they have mostly nostalgic value for me right now, but nostalgic value nonetheless, and that nostalgia weighs heavy, which is why I have several copies of each of the Belgariad and Malorian books in particular. And they all have the same cover in Swedish, only with different frames and what's the word, different fonts for the typing. So these were the books that I first bought as a kid. This is the same edition that I borrowed from my teacher, so the same image but with different framework. I think I prefer these, but that might also be because those were the editions I first read. The Malloreon, Belgarath and Polgara books were also split into two in Swedish. Here's the Tamuli, now the Elenium and the Tamuli books. And some more duplicates of Eddings. Down here is some more Terry Goodkind sort of truth paperbacks. Some more Eddings duplicates. Here's the Over the Nightingale Floor, Clan Otori books. And some Tad Williams and more Terry Brooks Shannara paperback at the very bottom. I don't know if you can notice change in lighting right now. I had to leave for my grandpa's 83rd birthday party, so it's now almost 6 hours later in the evening. But here's the first side of the third shelf. We got 2 copies of Gone with the Wind in Swedish, some Raymond E. Feist books in Swedish, Lies of Loch Lamora in Swedish, some of the Nick Perumov books, Diana Gabaldon's The Outlander, some Lee Child, and down here is most of my Tolkien collection in Swedish. I'm a big collector of Tolkien. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 paperbacks of The Hobbit in Swedish, and something similar of the trilogies. This here is, well, this is The Two Towers. This is actually a first edition Swedish paperback of The Two Towers. Well, this is Fellowship. They used the same cover art for, I think, the first 7 or 8 editions, paperback editions. This is an 8th edition paperback of the entire trilogy, Towers and Return of the King. This here I think is my favorite Lord of the Ring covers, made by a Swedish Tolkien illustrator called Inger Edelfelt. This is Towers. You can see the Rohirrim, Return of the King with the coronation, as well as the Silmarillion. This edition I inherited from my grandma. This is also Inger Edelfelt's covers. No Silmarillion was in this edition. It was never released in that edition. The Tolkien illustrated cover of The Hobbit. And this is Alan Lee's cover illustrations for the trilogy. And I think the Silmarillion as well. Or maybe this is John Howe. This here is a nice... this is actually my first copy of Lord of the Rings. I got this from my dad around the same time as the movies were released. This is probably 2004, so when the movies came on DVD. You can see it makes up a picture of the ring when the spines are lined up together. These are John Howe's covers for the trilogy. Also love these covers are the same as the one with the ring if I were to pull these out. Very nice covers. Also the Silmarillion. and this is, I think, a translation of Tales from a Perilous Realm. No, Unfinished Tales, actually. Yeah. And these are the Book of Forgotten Tale. This here is the new translation of The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings that were released in Sweden almost 20 years ago now. So it's not really new anymore, but it's the newest translation. So Name of the Wind and A Wise Man's Fear. This here is the Swedish author John Ajvide Lindqvist. Let the Right One In was a big hit overseas as well, and I got mine signed. Actually, I got several books signed that I haven't shown off here. These books as well. The Circle had moderate success overseas, I think. Also signed by the authors. There's a author duo that wrote this one, Mats Strandberg and Sara Bergmark Elfgren, that I've met several times actually, both of these people. Another Swedish author, Jan Guillou. We got Jan Cleese's autobiography, Maze Runner. These are the other ones by Erik Granström, the quartet that I got signed. Some more Swedish books. Fyodor Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment. Red Dragon, Silence of the Lambs, Hannibal, the Metro series. Hopefully there's better lighting on this side due to how my ceiling lamps are placed. This is where my English paperbacks start showing. So I got some Raymond E. Feist. All of these 6 books are signed by Raymond E. Feist. When he visited Stockholm a couple of years ago. I got an American edition of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, Philosopher's Stone, and a British edition of Prisoner of Azkaban. Some classics, Phantom of the Opera, Jungle Book, Around the World in 80 Days, War and Peace, Three Musketeers. Some other Great Gatsby, Adventures of Tom Sawyer, Sense and Sensibility. There's some more Margaret Weiss, Tracy Hickman books, Gulliver's Travels, Great Expectations, H.G. Wells, Time Machine and Invisible Man. Some Mark Lawrence, Prince of Thorns and King of Thorns. I have Emperor of Thorns as well, but I have that in a larger paperback that wouldn't fit on this shelf. Some Trudy Canavan, Ken Follett. Some English Lord of the Rings. These 3 I bought first time I visited London in 2008 when I was 11. I bought these 3, the trilogy. These were thrift store finds, it's Fellowship and Return of the King. I'm casually looking for the second one. It's not like I'm hunting it down or anything, but if I find it, I buy it. Fellowship, I think Tolkien did this cover himself, or that it's, well, he didn't make it to be the cover, but they took one of his images and put it on a cover. The Hobbit, a 50th anniversary edition. Two Towers and Return of the King. These are definitely Tolkien's own covers. Another Return of the King. I picked this up very recently for about $1 at a thrift store. And Silmarillion. These I received as birthday presents a few years ago. Adventures of Tom Bombadil, Farmer Giles, Rover Random, Smith of Wootton Mayer, Hobbit and the trilogy. Here are my English Wheel of Time books. I don't have all of these nice black ones. I want to have them all, but since they're out of print, I'm searching thrift stores and eBay for ones in really great condition. And I got some of the just regular, I guess these are regular as well, but they seem more special to me because I really like those black covers. Tight fits sometimes. Some more Wheel of Time, Jurassic Park, Frankenstein, some Eddings in English. These really nice faux leather Game of Thrones books. I guess they're not faux leather, or some kind of synthetic material. They're really nice. Some more Game of Thrones. Some of the Redwall books. And Aragon in English. Some different editions. Some of the R.A. Salvatore and Forgotten Realms books. I haven't read them, I found them cheap at a thrift store once again. Gaiman's Neverwhere and Ocean at the End of the Lane, also signed. If I can... yeah. I'm dropping books all over the place today, because I'm doing this one-handed. We got Golden Compass and the Subtle Knife in paperback. Some of the Star Wars novels that I haven't read, but they were on sale a couple of years ago, so I paid like $2 each for them. Panning shot of the first side of the fourth shelf. It starts out with Narnia in Swedish. The fifth one is my favorite. The Godfather in Swedish. The Redwall books in Swedish. There's a complete Lord of the Rings trilogy. The new edition Swedish Harry Potter books. Quite nice covers. I'm not sure about these soft bindings though. My Historic Materials trilogy, full of notes that I put there last time I read it. Les Mis. More Margaret Weiss Tracy Hickman in Swedish. Some of the hardcover Harry Potter books, 4, 5, 6 and 7 with dust jackets. Some more Stephen King, Roger Solansis, all 10 books about the Amber. Here's more Lord of the Rings, Fellowship, Towers, King, Silmarillion, and The Hobbit. The new Swedish translation with new covers made by Johan Egerkrans, the same guy that made the covers, the last cover for Aragon in Swedish, Inheritance. He's also made some really nice illustration books about Norse mythology and Norse mythological creatures that I have, and I met him several times at conventions and signings as well. Next shelf we got The Little House on the Prairie. These are actually my mom's books. Ghost Hunter, the 6th and until recently last book in the Wolf Brothers series. This is the first book that I completed in English. I think I was 12 when this released, and I had read parts of books in English before, but this was the first I completed in English because I couldn't wait for the Swedish translation to be released. Some more Narnia, some more Eddings. This is the Tamuli trilogy. The first book is missing because I'm currently reading that one. the Fantastic Beasts and Crimes of Grindelwald screenplays. This here is Enid Blyton's famous 5 books in Swedish that my mom read to me when I was 7, 8. I also read a few of them myself. Here's the Rick Riordan books, Percy Jackson books in Swedish. Some other random books in Swedish. There's all of the 7 Harry Potter house editions, or 20th anniversary editions, as they were when the first couple were released. The Ravenclaw edition, because Ravenclaw is my house. On this side is where I have most room to spare. See, it'll be empty down here, or almost empty. And here you can see the dividers I have in the middle of each of these wider shelves. All of the books on this top shelf I recently inherited from my grandparents when they were cleaning their bookshelf. And here I have Princess Bride, once again Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, Clockwork Orange, sadly in Swedish, well, not sadly perhaps, but I wanted it in English and I thought it was English because it said A Clockwork Orange in English on the cover, and I was stupid and didn't turn around and read the description on the backside because it's clearly in Swedish. I wanted to read it in English. These are N.K. Jemisin's 5th season of Escape and Stone Sky in paperback. I also have these in paperback in English, but they're not in my shelves because I'm currently reading those. Here's Daniel's book, Breach of Peace, and The Martian. At the panning shot of the 5th shelf, I've also got some room to spare here, which is why some of the books are lying on their sides, so I can't get them to stand up straight, or if they're not filling up the shelf. At top we got some more Catherine Kerr books in English this time. Got some of the British and some of the American editions. Got Lies of Loch Lamora in English, also signed, though I've actually never met Scott Lynch because I got this from a friend. Or actually I convinced a friend to go to an event where Scott Lynch was signing, because I couldn't because I was on vacation when he was visiting Stockholm. Some more Redwall books in English. Here's Emperor of Thorns, which I got as a Christmas gift from the same friend who got me the signed Loch Lamora, who I'm not currently friends with anymore, but I'm still keeping the books I got. M.R. Carey's Girl with All the Gifts. Haven't read this one, but I've also met M.R. Carey. I got this signed at the same event where I met John Ajvide Lindqvist and got Let the Right One In signed. Some Philip K. Dick, some Isaac Asimov, the Divergent series, Jim Butcher. All of these Harry Dresden books are signed. I met Jim Butcher twice. This one isn't signed. Some more Game of Thrones. Some Bleach. I've bought these Omnibus 3-in-1 books, and I don't have all of them, and I'm currently reading the one with 25 through 27, which is why this is missing in between here. The Sarah J. Maas books, or some of them. The Zelda manga, some of them. Some 7 Deadly Sins, some Percy Jackson in English, some Narnia in English, some Ranger's Apprentice in English, some of the Alita Battle Angel books, mostly from the 2nd series, the Scythe books, some more Harry Potter. This here is actually an Australian edition that I picked up at a thrift store. And second and third one are quite recent finds, and sadly I damaged the third one when I tried to remove the sticker, so that's all my fault. The fifth and sixth ones I got for $1 each at a book sale some years ago. Quidditch Through the Ages, Fantastic Beasts and Tales of Beedle the Bard, and these grey, more adult covers of the first 4 Harry Potter books. Got some of the Magic the Gathering books, Rage of Dragons, and 5 Taran books, or Prydain, Land of Prydain. Chronicles of Prydain is what they're called. I've read the first 2 and part of the third one many years ago, and I'm currently rereading the first one, which is why it's missing from this box set. Some Robin Hobb books. I'm currently reading Assassin's Apprentice, which is why it's missing. Some of the Spook's Apprentice books, and just some random books, mostly from my university studies. These are the kind of books we had to read: Watership Down, Invisible Man, Why Look at Animals. I never read this actually. Little Women. I loved Little Women. I didn't think I would, but I loved it. And everyone who don't think you should mix books with other media can look away now, because this is where I keep my audiobooks and some duplicate movies that I can't fit in my movie room. Well, from the top I got a Lord of the Rings audiobooks. These are the old translations, these are the new translations. I got some random books that I got as presents. I got the right one in. I got the Swedish Harry Potter books. I got Brissinger. I got the Swedish Hunger Games. Jan Guillau's Arn Knight Templar books. Philip Pullman's His Dark Materials and Sally Lockhart books. Stephen Fry's reading of Harry Potter. These are the Swedish His Dark Material books, some Astrid Lindgren books. Got 2 of the Narnia books, and I got 1, 2, 5, 6, and 7 of Jim Dale's reading of Harry Potter. And I'm currently looking for 3 and 4, but they're very rare to come across in Sweden, and they're quite expensive to ship from the US. I quite like having these stacks of CDs, even though I'm ripping them to my computer to listen on my MP3 player. I quite liked having these stacks of CDs to display on my shelf. And in the very last bookshelf, the end shelf, I've got some more, with a mix of English and Swedish. I think maybe more English, or maybe there's pretty evenly spread. On the top we have these bonded leather, either Barnes & Noble or Cambridge, I think. This one I think is Cambridge Library edition. A bunch of these I bought when I went to the US 6 years ago to visit relatives. I got Le Morte d'Arthur, I got the Iliad and the Odyssey, Complete Sherlock Holmes, Grimm's Fairy Tales, Edgar Allan Poe, Dune, Divine Comedy, Jules Verne, Jurassic Park, Huckleberry Finn. This one isn't one of these bonded leather. This is my old William Shakespeare that I got many years ago. I've only read a few of his plays. Again, I don't know how I ended up with so many copies of Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, but there they are. The Folk, the Witch and the Worm, the English edition. Some more Hans Christian Andersen fairy tales. This here is The Metamorphoses and Other Franz Kafka works. Frankenstein, Scarlet Letter, Wuthering Heights, Jane Eyre, Crime and Punishment, and Arabian Nights. This is IMC 3PO, also signed by Anthony Daniels, when I met him in London on no, not London, Birmingham, on a Comic-Con 2 years ago. And I also met him in Stockholm once, if I turn really fast. And yeah, this is some of my photo collection. I got loads more in a binder somewhere, but I met Christian Erin, I met Kenny Baker before he died, I met Ian Glenn, Billy Boyd, Mads Mikkelsen on the side, Anthony Daniels, Christopher Lloyd, and Jan Rhys Davis. And I got maybe 15 more in a binder somewhere. And some of my poster work, Psycho, Zelda, this Hogwarts crest shield that I actually cross-stitched myself, a Dark Knight poster that came with a magazine sometime many years ago. But back to the bookshelves, I got, these are the first edition new translation Lord of the Rings. Don't have the Hobbit in this edition, sadly. Quite like the simplicity of these covers. Here's another Swedish Lies of Locke Lamora. The illustrated Game of Thrones books, those that are available right now. The Books of Earthsea. These are the new edition historic materials in Swedish. Also quite nice new covers. This is the La Belle Sauvage and Secret Commonwealth Book of Dust in Swedish. Some more Eddings in Swedish. Stardust in Swedish, Gaiman. These are for my university studies, History of English Literature, or Northern Anthology of English Literature rather. The special collector's edition, Throne of Glass. I haven't actually read, but I got it for like $5 at a book sale, so why not? This really nice edition of The Hobbit. And this facsimile gift edition Hobbit of the original Hobbit before the revisions were made. Some more books I bought at Comic-Cons, indie pub books. Alex Rider, Scorpio Rising. This came out around the same time as Ghost Hunter, and I was into Alex Rider at that time. So this is probably the second book I ever completed in English. The Scorpio Rising, which was the last book at the time. I think he wrote more, but I felt done with Alex Rider when that book came out. This is a Rides of Dread Legion, Raymond E. Feist, which is also signed, but I didn't meet Feist at this time because I won this at a competition once, an online competition. This here is the Mina Lima Philosopher's Stone, and the first 3 Harry Potter books in this nice slipcase edition. Jurassic Park, To Sleep in a Sea of Stars, Go Set a Watchman. I don't think I have To Kill a Mockingbird, but I have read To Kill a Mockingbird and Go Set a Watchman. I don't know what... Oh yeah, Sword Princess Amalfia, that's a Swedish manga. And then some random books at the bottom. And before I move on to my next odd shelf, this is my small setup, gaming setup. I have more modern consoles in another room. This is in my bedroom. I have a small TV. I've got a Swedish GameCube and a Japanese GameCube. The one with the Game Boy Player is the Japanese one. I got a PS1 or PSX, a small one, a Blu-ray player, a PS2. I got all the Final Fantasy PS1 games, and most of the other PS1 games were my dad's before I got them, except this sealed copy of Yu-Gi-Oh! Forbidden Memories that I got very cheap at a convention once. Some GameCube, some Zelda, some Metroid Prime, Pokemon Gale of Darkness and Colosseum, some PS2 games, a lot of Guitar Hero and Lord of the Rings, Prince of Persia, some music CDs, Hyrule Warriors for the 3DS and Majora's Mask for the 3DS Collector's Editions. And that's actually my Friends Blu-ray box laying there because I've been watching Friends recently. My Ranger's Apprentice audiobooks and Historic Materials radio drama. And Pokemon Collector's Steelbook Edition for the latest Pokemon games, or the last 3DS Pokemon games. And a bunch of GBA and DS games. And Lord of the Rings audiobooks. And I have above my bed these cabinets. One of them I keep movies in, and one of them I keep books in. I'm gonna show you where I keep books in. Because here's where I keep the rest of my Lord of the Rings collection. And this here is a first edition soft binding Return of the King in Swedish, the very first edition. And this is a third edition Fellowship soft binding that uses the same cover art as the first edition. Some more Hobbit books, some more Lord of the Rings. These are the Jon Haug covers. More Lord of the Rings. These are called anniversary editions, but I'm not quite sure which anniversary they were for. And all of them look like this, but with different titles, so that's Fellowship. And as you can see above here, or maybe if you know what this is the Tales of Beetle the Bard Amazon edition that they reproduced. J.K. Rowling hand wrote and hand bound 4 Tales of Beetle the Bard, and then Amazon bought the rights to do, I don't know, like 2,000 more or something, and this is one of them. And you'll excuse me for not unpacking it, but it's really well packed in there. And that's the most expensive book I own. I paid about $250 for that second hand. That's a duplicate of Fellowship of the Ring, the new Swedish translation. Here's an old complete trilogy in Swedish. These are some old English to Swedish dictionaries or glossaries that I inherited from one of my grandparents. These are some traveling books. This is actually a board game. Another duplicate Tolkien and a duplicate Eddings. And these are the Alan Lee illustrated Lord of the Rings. One of them is still shrink wrapped in Swedish. And I have, I think, 2 more that are behind here somewhere. And lastly, I still have a IKEA Billy bookshelf with a Black Widow poster that I got in the cinema. I watched that movie in. And I got doors on this one for some damage as well. And I mostly keep binders in here, but I got some books as well that are too large to fit anywhere else. So the entire top shelf behind my Apple keyboard box, I have 1001 movies you must see before you die. There's a first edition and a bunch of different editions, and these are the 2 Swedish editions that were published. Here are this Game of Thrones behind the series book, a book about James Bond written by Roger Moore. These are the Johan Egerkrans books about Nordic mythological beings that he signed and very generously drew a dragon in. And for his book on Norse gods, he drew a raven because of the raven's importance to Norse mythology. And his book about undead creatures from around the world, he drew a skull in. And these are also books about dinosaurs and ancient sea monsters that he has written and illustrated, but these aren't signed. Here's my entire Tintin collection, the newest Swedish translation that were released again almost 20 years ago. That's all of them, all the 23 that Hergé finished while he was alive. I don't have the 24th one that went unfinished. Some asterisks. My duplicate copies of Harry Potter in Swedish. These are the Jim Kay illustrated editions of Harry Potter, the 4 that is available currently. Illustrated Quidditch Through the Ages, the art of Lord of the Rings with some of Tolkien's own art, and a Swedish edition of Letter from Father Christmas. 2 of the Zelda books, Hyrule Historian, Zelda Encyclopedia, the illustrated Northern Lights, and I think that's it. Some of my Magic collection, and just some magazines, Science Illustrated and History Around the World.